Namaste and good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, and we are towards the end of this Taittiriya Upanishad. Maybe a couple of more lessons on that. So let's start today's class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhava Swaha, Tat Savitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya. Om Sehna Vavatu Sehna Bhunaktu Saviryam Karvavahi, Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti 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 Om. Let's recite the Shanti mantra, which is pertaining to this Upanishad also. Om Shanno Mitra Sham Varunaha Sham No Bhavatu Varyama Sham No Indro Braspati Sham No Vishnu Urukrama Namo Brahmane Namate Vayo Tvam Eva Pratyaksham Brahm Asi Tvam Eva Pratyaksham Brahm Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tatmam Avatu Tatvaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti 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 Om. So we are on chapter 3, Bhrigu Valli, and we know that Bhrigu is the son and his father is Rishi Varuna. So he asked the deep questions, and the father, the Rishi, the Guru, he said, go and meditate. Go and meditate and find the answer. And we see that every time he goes and does the meditation, he gets a glimpse of the truth, and then he comes back and he asks again. And what does the father say? Meditate more. Then he goes and meditates and comes back again. So this is how he went from the grosser level of this reality towards the subtle and subtler. So let's look at in this verse where he has reached the Anandamaya Kosh, the bliss sheath. Anandaha Brahmiti Vyajanat Anandat hi ev khalu imani bhutani jayante Ananden jatani jivanti Anandam paryanti abhisamvishanti iti sa esha bhargavi varuni vidya parme vyoman pratishtata sa ya evam ved pratishtati Anuvan anada bhavati mahan bhavati prajya pashubhi brahma varchasen mahan kirtya. Anand means bliss. Brahmati as Brahma, Vyajanat understood. Anandat from bliss, he means indeed, Ev means alone, Khalu certainly, Imani all these. Bhutani beings, Jayante are born. Ananden Jatani Jivanti. Ananden by bliss, Jatani born, Jivanti live. So this is section 6, the first verse. Anandam into bliss, Paryanti on departing, Abhisamvishanti enter. Iti means thus. Sa eshaha. In this, Bhargavi Varuni of Bhrigu and Varun. Those are the names of the son and the father. Vidya, knowledge. Parme, in the supreme. Vyoman, space. So this space really means the cavity of the heart. Space. Pratishtata, established. Sa means he, ya means who, evam das, Ved knows, pratishtati becomes established. Anvan, possessor of food. Annadaha, eater of food. Bhavati, he becomes. Mahan, great. Bhavati becomes prajya, in progeny. Pashubhi, cattle as wealth. Brahma were chasen, born of the sacred knowledge. Mahan, great, Kirtiya, fame and renown. He who knew that bliss was Brahma. From bliss, all these beings are produced. By bliss do these beings live. They go to bliss on departing and become one with it. This is the knowledge learned by Bhrigu and taught by Valli. This is established in the supreme space, in that excellent cavity of the heart. He who knows this becomes one with Brahma. He becomes the possessor of food and the eater of it. He becomes great in progeny, in cattle, like wealth, and gains the splendor of true Brahmahood. Indeed, he becomes great in fame, and he is renowned also. So through contemplation, through deep meditation, we learned in the previous verses that Bhrigu transcended himself from An to the Pran. An really means all the physical, grosser objects. An to Pran, then Pran to mind, and from mind to intellect. That's where we ended our last week's class. But he was not satisfied. Then he took the most daring plunge into the beyond. He left the intellect behind also. Because if we look at it, these objects, the grosser objects, then the energy also, the prana, then the mind, then the intellect, what is it? It's all made out of Prakriti, the matter. So you got to go beyond that. So on transcending the intellect, he came to experience a state of bliss, which is called Anandamay Ghosh. The bliss sheath is the enjoyer of which the intellect is an agent. To experience the bliss sheath through a steady and awareful withdrawal of our own lower identifications, that means with the world outside, and those 4 layers of matter, what really happens? Immediately we experience the supreme. Bliss sheath is not supreme, but as soon as we reach there, that supreme we feel. So in other words, to reach up to the bliss sheath, self-effort, which is called Purusharth, is needed. It's almost like if we are in a dark room, we got to walk towards the window, get hold of the string of that curtain, pull it. Then in order for the light to come in, we don't have to make any effort because light is already there. The same thing happens with this tapasya, with this meditation also. Finding the right time, right place, sitting down, do all that, rise above from the gross to the subtle, to the subtler, to the subtlest. And in order to feel that bliss, it's already there. And this is what Bhrigu is saying over here to us. So we got to learn how to transcend the lower. Higher is already there. We don't have to invite the higher. We don't have to do anything with the higher. We don't have to pray to the sun that please give us sunlight. It's already there. We got to do our part. So our own real nature was unknown to us, to Bhrigu also. Because when we are so preoccupied with the 5 lower matter sheaths, Anmay Kosh, Pranmay Kosh, Manomay Kosh, Vigyanmay Kosh, Anandamay Kosh, we are so preoccupied, we are just not aware of who we are. When we have withdrawn ourselves up to the Anandamay Kosh, we automatically get ourselves transported to the realm of the divine in us. It is there. We don't have to go to any special place. It is there. So this method, which Rishi Varun is kept telling Bhrigu, and Bhrigu did the tapasya, and he reached here. So the method of inquiry and direct appreciation of the subtler realms of the personalities in ourselves will take us to this realization. And in this Upanishad, it's called a Bhargavi Vidya. Bhrigu is the name of that son, but he is the one who did the tapasya. So this Vidya is called Bhargavi Vidya. See, just like in the modern world of science, some theory is discovered by a scientist, whether it was Einstein or Newton, don't we remember that particular discovery with their names? The same thing is over here. Bhrigu realized for himself, and this Vidya is called the science of Bhrigu. It's not that he wanted to put his name. It's the rishis after him, or rishis at that time, when they realized that this young boy has done the tapasya, followed the instructions of his guru and father, they are calling this a Bhrigu Vidya or Bhargavi Vidya. That is the correct name for that. But then these Vedas, they tell us, if anyone with the sincerity of Bhrigu consistently continues to persevere on this path of inquiry and does this kind of a meditation, can also come to experience the same fulfillment, realization of the self. And realization of the self, he calls it a becoming one with Brahma. Okay. And again, I know I have mentioned many times before, this word annam, don't think it's just a food. Annam word should be taken in the largest sense. So that means the entire field of the experientiable objects. That's annam. All the grossest things are called annam. Okay, and the pran we are familiar with, man, the mental thoughts we are familiar with, but annam sometimes we get thrown away from that particular message which the scriptures are giving us. So the Bhrigu, the student, when he followed the instructions of Varun, the father, faithfully, the satisfaction was on his face. The glow was on his face. And this is what Varun saw, the Guru saw. And at the same time, we'll see from the future verses, all this was not given to exclusively to Bhrigu alone. But Bhrigu was one student who could meditate deeply. That's what we'll see. So the other students who had not did the proper meditations, not complete inner purification, they could not comprehend the entire truth so vividly as Bhrigu did. Just like in any given classroom, if there are 30 students, 20 students, everybody is not at the same level, even though the teacher is teaching everybody the same thing. That's why we'll see in the next few verses, teacher is advising the other students some upasanas. Bhrigu doesn't need those upasanas anymore. He has come to experience the Brahmhood, but the other students, they still need it. So we'll see the 6 different methods of upasana. Upasana is a method where when we follow that method, self-integration can be achieved. Great teachers, they always have the ability to talk to the student who is walking on the path and the student in the same class who's not following it either. So this is what we see in this scripture. He was talking to Bhrigu also, and now he's talking to Bhrigu also, and at the same time to the other students also. So the first 4 of the upasanas we see, those are for those students. It's like telling somebody, this is not a stone, this is a shivling, but look at the stone. Meditate as a shivling. Or it's not a piece of cloth. It is a flag of a country. Remember the principles, the ideologies of the country. That is called upasana. So let's see the next verse, how beautifully this upasana method is described there. Annam na nindyat tat vratam prana ve annam shariram anadam prane shariram pratishtatam sharire prana pratishtitah tat etat annam anne pratishtitam sa ya etat annam anne pratishtitam ved pratishtate anvan anadah bhavati mahan bhavati prajya pashubhi Brahm varchasen mahan kirtya. Again, annam word. See, that's why I wanted you to know the an word is more than food. Okay, so right now let's look at an as food. Na means not, nindat, disrespect. Tat means that, vratam, your vow. Pran, energy. Ve means indeed, anna means food. Shariram, body. Anadam, eater of food. Prane, in pran. Shariram, body. Pratishtitam, established. Sharire, in the body. Pran, energy. Pratishtita, established. Tat means therefore, etat, this, annam, food, anne, in food, pratishtatam, established. Sa means he, ya means who, etat, this, annam, food, anne, in food, pratishtatam, established. So there's a lot of repetition. The same words to give a proper emphasis. Ved knows, pratishtatam, become one with. Anvan, possessor of food, anadaha, eater of food, bhavati becomes. Mahan, great. Bhavati becomes. Prajya, progeny. Pashubhi, the wealth. Brahma Varchasen, splendor of true Brahmahood. Mahan, great. Kirtya, through fame. He says, do not disrespect food. So that means do not disrespect this material world. Even though this is grosser, but do not disrespect it. That shall be your vow. Pran is food. Body is the eater of food. The body is fixed in pran. The pran is fixed in body. Thus, food is fixed in food. He who knows that food is fixed in food becomes one with the Brahman. He becomes possessed of food and he becomes the eater of the food. He becomes great in progeny, in wealth, and in splendor of Brahmhood. He becomes great in fame. So to the ordinary students or the students who have not realized the Brahmhood, he is trying to engage them into the thinking that whatever tapasya you are doing, whatever I'm telling you to do, if you do this, you will be successful in this worldly life also. So it's like a promise of the material gains, because these young boys, they do have a share of attachment with the material gain and the worldly fame. That's very natural. In the earlier stages of our life, this is natural. We want to earn, we want to procure, we want to have a respect also in the society. So the Rishi here, understanding the character of his students, is playing to their desires and hauling them out of their sensuous ruts. So they are promised over here that they will become not only rich in food or in the objects, but they will be equally capable of enjoying all these objects. They will have plenty of food all their lives. They have plenty of objects, material objects. And he's also telling them that if you keep on following this path, you'll have plenty of children, plenty of wealth. And you'll be satisfied. Because these are the three great desires human beings have. Desire for wealth, desire for progeny, and desire for fame. Putreshna, Viteshna, and Lokeshna. These are the three desires human beings have. So these results are promised to these young students. And what does it mean when he says body eats pran and the pran eats the body? There are no two things actually. The eater and the eaten, from the philosophical point, it's like a food is fixed in food. One who regularly meditates gains more and more integration within. An integrated person is ever noted for success always in all kinds of activities, including the material and secular. This is for the ordinary student understanding over here. But for the extremely integrated and more subtle intellect of Bhrigu, deeper message from the same verse, because he wants to hammer this message into the Bhrigu also. So the very opening word summarizes the message to Bhrigu. Do not disrespect food. Because sometimes what happens, you have risen to a certain level, you think that you don't need to respect the material world. So that's why he says, Annamna nindat. Don't do the ninda. Do not have a disrespect for this world. When we say that God is everywhere, there's no place where God is not. So we should not disrespect anything. So it's like the world of food constitutes the world of objects. So the teacher instructs the student that due to his realization of the divine nature of the self, he should not entertain any undivine idea about the world outside. Okay? You remember in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna said, I'm everywhere. Everywhere. And then Arjuna wanted to know where. Then he gave a lot of examples. Everywhere. So the world without is as much divine as the world within. Such a saint becomes great in progeny also. So that really means a person like this can guide the entire generation. Because this Bhrigu became a great rishi afterwards. And he is the one who wrote many of the mantras in the Vedas also. So progeny does not really mean only your own children, but your students also. Anybody you can help. So this is what it really, it's like a very fatherly, we see that fatherly love the rishis give to the students. You remember that Ashtavakra Gita we studied? Even though he was a young boy, Rishi Ashtavakra. But King Janak, he talked to King Janak as his own son. So it's not about the physical age. It's like giving the fatherly love. So he becomes indeed great in fame also, he says. Annam na parichakshit tat vratam apahave annam jyoti anadam apsuhu jyoti pratishthitam jyotishi apa pratishtitah tat etat annam anne pratishthitam sa ya etat annam anne pratishthitam ved pratishtati anvan anadah bhavati mahan bhavati prajya pashubhi brahm varchasen mahan kirtya. Again, there's a lot of repetition from the previous couple of verses, but let's go through word by word meaning also. Annam, food, na parichakshit, do not reject. That means that vratam, your duty. Apaha, water, where means verily, annam, food. Jyoti, fire. Anadam, the eater of food. Apsu, in water. Jyoti, fire. Pratishtitam, established. Jyotishi, in fire. Apaha, water. Pratishtita, all established. Tat etat, therefore this, annam, food, anne, in food, pratishtitam, is established. Sa means he, ya means who, etat this, annam, food, anne, in food, pratishtitam, established, ved, knows, pratishtati, get established. Anvan, possessor of food, anadaha, eater of food, bhavati, becomes. Mahan, great. Bhavati becomes prajya, in progeny, pashubhi, cattle, wealth, Brahma Varchasen, in this splendor of true Brahmahood. Mahan means great, kirtya, fame. Again, he says, do not reject food. Okay? That is a duty. Water is food. Fire is the food eater. Fire is fixed in water. Water is fixed in fire. So food is fixed in food. He who knows that food is fixed in food stands forever, established well. He becomes the possessor of food and an eater of food. He becomes great in progeny, in cattle, and in his fame also. he becomes great in fame. So again, this is also upasana for all the students. So the first thing he says, should not reject any food. Even people like us, when we are served food, we should consume it without making faces. Sometimes we just protest against food. But our rishis, what did they say? Thank God. Remember, there's a Brahma in food also. Respecting and reverence for food, our rishis taught us. That's why we grew up in a culture where we were told, take only as much as you can eat, do not throw it away. That's a disrespecting food. Water that is drunk is digested by the digested fire. That's what he's telling us. Water is regarded as food. Fire is regarded as the consumer of food. There's a term, jatragni, gastric fire, that consumes food. Food grains grow with water. That's why he's saying that water and the food, they both are needed. And heat in a living body is necessary for the food to be digested. When the body becomes cold, dead, it cannot consume food. So the body heat can be considered as the eater of water. So in that sense, he's talking about all this. Fire is fixed in water. We can say that fire is fixed in water as much as by supplying water to the digestive system. That's how the efficiency of the digestive system increases. We are told that drink at least a few glasses of water every day. Your digestive system becomes better. And water is fixed in fire again. Whenever the heat of the body increases, immediately we find water in the form of perspiration, steaming out as if water is fixed in fire. So anything consumed by fire is always accompanied by moisture. So they're all together. All together. So the relationship between the subject and the object is clearly shown over here. Even though sometimes we don't see it the same way, it's almost like when we were in our high schools and we would just put a rod in a bottle, and there's a liquid in the bottle, and the rod, that part of rod which was in the liquid and which was not in the liquid, it always seemed like there was some kind of a bend. So same rod, but it seems differently. So the same way the subject and the object, even though they are the same, the world of objects seem to be different from the subject because of the refraction. That's called a refraction when we saw that bend. And how do we see this refraction? See, in the jar, we saw it because of some liquid in there. But why do we see it differently? Because of the medium of our mind and intellect. Because we are experiencing all the objects through our mind and intellect. So we don't see as they are. We are seeing only from it's almost like a mirror of our mind. That's why Rishi Patanjali said, practice yoga. Yoga chit vritti nirodha. And when you do that, when all the vrittis are clean, you will see the reality as it is, not as refracted. So before the fruits of the upasana are enumerated as great material success and easy satisfaction of all the fundamental desires of life, he has established over here for the students. So to the student of realization, Bhrigu, because Bhrigu already peeped into the beyond. And he got inspired from that, what he saw. For him, the message is food, that means the world of objects, can be experienced. It should not be rejected as false and delusory or as a nothingness. That's why, again, let me take you to Rishi Patanjali. What did he say? A yogi lives a life neither getting attached to this world, not running away from this world. Neither rag nor dvesh, living a life in equilibrium. That is a yogi's life. We don't have to say that, no, this is a bad world. Living in this world, doing our duties, keeping our mind stable, keep on doing our inner purification, that is a yogi's life. And this is what Rishi Varun is telling these students. So the manifested world of polarity is not to be rejected as a false and a delusory nothingness. The world presents a totally different field altogether for the perfect man to serve and to adore, to worship and to guide. The roles change, but we don't have to run away from this world. So the main theme of this Taittiriya Upanishad, apart from the philosophical theories, is the right attitude of a man of knowledge towards this world which has a multiplicity. Even though Brahm is one, but there are many forms. So what kind of attitude we should have towards these forms? See God in them also. So Bhrigu was advised not to reject the world on any score, but to recognize the true divine nature of the world outside. So you see the message for the students who are still trying to understand. He's encouraging them that if you stay on the path, your desires will be fulfilled. You'll have the progeny also, you'll have the wealth also, you'll have the fame also. And to Bhrigu, who is, we can say, realized now, because once you have that glimpse, it doesn't take long to know this. That's why I said, once you just open the window, you will feel the fresh air. You'll see the light. So Bhrigu saw that. So for Bhrigu, he says, do not run away from your duties. Be here. Do not reject any of it. Don't run away. So this is the message we get from these verses which we just studied today. So let's do the Shanti Path. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.